I should give this one a better introduction than I gave Ben-Hur. Let's see, because that one I didn't even know what to say. Okay, imagine World War III happens. Desolation everywhere, destruction and chaos. But there's one way to save your time, and that is by going back in time. And that's what we're going to do, talk about a French classic short film, La Jetée. I am your co host, Dr. Strike the Sun, here on Mr. Nothing's channel Around the Weird, discussing yet another film for the Around the Weird Film Festival extravaganza we've got going. Hello, Mr. Nothing.
Hello, Lucas. Lovely introduction there. And it seems like we definitely have two different kind of feelings about this movie. Something that you kind of like pushed for us to try to find. Um,
Yes.
and yeah, I welcome it. And so I was hoping we'd find one of these like diametrically opposed movies, and I am definitely not a big fan of this, even though you love it.
When I first saw it, I was awe-inspired by the lack of motion picture in the motion picture. I thought that was simple, but very effective for me, given the content and some of the themes in La Jetée. Um, and also because it's so short, I feel like it didn't overstay its welcome with what it was trying to say. So if this had been a full length feature, I hesitate to call it a film. If this had been a full length feature PowerPoint, I don't know if I could handle it.
Hmm. Yeah, I think I would have found myself kind of tuning out of it a bit more. I was tuning it out of here because of a number of reasons. But like a full length hour and a half, 2 hour long movie like this uh, would be, and I think that that's actually been made. I think there's a Mexican movie, as I was looking up more about this, that follows this kind of style. Um, and it does seem like a hugely influential movie. For those out there who don't know, this was made in 1962. It was directed and written by Chris Marker, starring Helene Chatelain, Davos Hanik, and Jacques Ledoux. And it comes from the new French New Wave style, specifically the left bank style. And just a brief summary: New Wave was like a French style of movies that where they tried to do new things. They were breaking away from the norms, exploring different styles of filmmaking as well as different ideas and morals and stuff like that. The left bank is interesting because they felt that the right bank was too conformist, too kind of in line with the morals of society, maybe following like conventional filmmaking techniques a little too closely, and so you end up with the left bank of people like Chris Marker here, who is not really making a movie so in a traditional way. It's just and we'll go into this a little bit more. It's just a number of photographs and maybe like one like tiny scene, like tiny like bit of actual like video mixed in there, and they're all just
Motion
strung
picture.
together with what?
Motion picture.
Yeah, it's not like a traditional motion picture. It's just the like a series of images with narration over it and some vague French whispers going on.
Yeah. And an incredible performance by the like cathedral choir.
Oh yeah,
You
that's
got to admit that song is very good.
it set you up for like an amazing experience that I feel the rest of the movie does not deliver on. Um And I might there are a number of reasons that I'll get to later about why that might be. I feel like we're having a little bit of the Seinfeld effect here, um, in that so many things, so many movies have kind of copied this idea that I'm not able to sort of experience it anew and fresh, and thereby saying, "Wow, this is transformative."
Sure. I think, I guess I've never seen another film like it in the sense of like just moving from picture to picture. Uh, I think the first time I watched it, I didn't realize it was a French New Wave film, even though it does come from that time period. And I haven't watched a lot of French New Wave films, but I generally don't like them, except this one. Not to say it stands out above the rest. I haven't watched very many in that genre. But I think for me, just like some of the images are quite striking, like the way the shadows play on people, or the way that some people are just like dressed. Like there's that dude with the glasses that's pretty iconic. That's a cool shot. Every time he shows up, he just looks cool. The Some people that come up later in the film, maybe we can go chronologically, so to speak, and we'll talk about them. But some people from later in the film look really cool to me, even though they just have something glued to their head. Um, Pretty striking images to me. And then I think the thing that shocked me the most, that little motion picture part that you were talking about, the little bit of video, like when that finally shows up, it felt to me like really revelatory. Like, oh, this is really sort of like, I really like how it is challenging what a motion picture can actually be. Uh, anyway, I guess we should get into the plot.
Yeah,
Uh,
you made a lot of good points there. But the movie begins with it focuses on the present and peacetime, as the narrator says. And you better like the narration, because if you don't, that's all this movie really has to offer. But we at the beginning of the movie we see a child sort of hyper focusing on a lady at a jetty in a sort of airport pier where people watch planes go off. I don't know if that's still a thing.
I'm not sure. Maybe in France might be a cultural thing there still.
But the child like focuses on this woman, and then on the side like they see a man die, um, but it's a crazed scene, so the child.
Well, yeah, you make it not sound as dramatic as it is. He's focused on the woman. He's there to see the planes fly, and then there's like a lot of chaos and fury going around, people panicking, and the reason is because he saw the man die, which
Mhm.
then takes us to like the actual present, uh, because this is the memory of our main character, who is a prisoner post World War III, post nuclear apocalypse. Paris has been completely demolished. Uh, what remains is the kingdom of the rats, I believe is what they call it.
Mhm.
Um, and they are, yeah, the survivors. It says the victors stood guard over a kingdom of rats.
Good
Uh,
line.
Yeah, such a good line. There are a lot of good lines. Actually, another good line that comes from that very beginning part, uh, when he says, nothing distinguishes memories from ordinary moments. Only later do they become memorable by the scars they leave.
Mm.
I thought that was a really good line. And I think that's why, like, this kind of theme of memory, having it be pictures, really helps, because at least when I try to think of memories, I just have flashes of images, not sort of blocking and movement in my memories myself. But uh, the prisoners, I have a question about what is the judicial system? Why are they prisoners? Are they prisoners from before World War III? Are they war prisoners? Are they like it's peacetime now, so they can't be war prisoners, right? Uh, but I
It's
think
a
some of that,
it's the new society that's risen up, and like so they have a
yeah,
new system of laws, and so those people
mm,
violated whatever laws are in place, and they're doing experiments on them. So it's clearly not a decent
yeah.
society.
I think I heard some of that whispering was not all in French. I could have sworn I heard uh, a little bit of German and a little bit of English. I'm not entirely sure, but I thought I heard some like I think the way to say three, how do you do that in three in German is drei, right? I heard that, and I could have sworn I heard some English too. So I think they might have been prisoners from the war that didn't get released or something. That was my thought. But
Yeah.
maybe it's the new society and their new laws. Either way, horrendous experiments are being done on these prisoners
Hmm.
who are subjected to a the experiment to uh, not uh, it basically to try and save the world from this radioactive wasteland where they have few or extremely limited supplies, and there's no space to go to find this. So as it says, space is out of the question. Space was out of the question. The only hope for survival lay in time, and
Hmm.
they choose our main character who
I
has
should also note that they refer to the weird scientist who's doing all of this as a Dr. Frankenstein, which I
yeah,
just thought
that's right.
was an interesting comparison.
Yeah, interesting little text to text kind of connection there. Um, they choose they choose prisoners by spying on their dreams, which is scary. I thought that was a cool element to it. Spying on their dreams and basically finding people who have very distinct images that appear to them. Um, and I would assume that they try to find people who have distinct images that appear from before the war, because that's what this guy has. He has that memory of the woman from when he was on the pier, um, and so he goes back in time over a series of days. It was quite a long time, right? He kept going back and forth for weeks at a time, and not weeks at a time, but over multiple weeks, it seemed like. Um, and each time he's coming into different places or different spaces in time at that time, right? What else?
I
I'm missing something.
I have a problem with this like this sort of time travel that it seems to lack imagination in how it works, but like the biggest problem is the way it's described, and that might be part of the movie, is that like he's sitting down and they have this stuff over his eyes and he's seeing
Sensory
images.
deprivation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like he's seeing images of this stuff, and they call that time travel. And to me, like that doesn't seem like what's happening here. It seems like he's just hallucinating these bits of time, creating like maybe fake memories that
Yeah.
might have happened to him. And that if that's the case, like that definitely adds to what's going on in the movie. Like this is a post-apocalypse. Everyone is kind of miserable, and this person who
Yeah.
has memories of like a before time is is retreating into their memory in order to create a better life for themselves.
Yeah.
And that's interesting, but this I don't know, for some reason this movie seems hyper fixated on the time travel aspect of it.
Well, I really love that that it's simple. Like I don't know. I guess I've always been the kind of person that like I don't really care about like alternate universes kind of thing, like butterfly effect. I mean, I guess I believe that is possible or does exist, but my thought is always like with the consciousness that I have, like these other branching paths are like kind of irrelevant to me because I can never experience them. So in my mind, like I actually really like that it's this circular loop, which we will get to. Um, Maybe branching paths, butterfly effect, kind of time travel is, if time travel could be possible, maybe is more realistic, or is more scientifically interesting or something. But I feel like I will only ever know the one path I'm on. So the loop for me is like, I like that kind of stuff. I like it more than the other thing. That's just kind of how I feel. I also like that they don't actually try to explain it beyond sensory deprivation. And I think there's a needle with some medicine in it too. Like it doesn't, it just seems like they're putting him to sleep. And somehow, yeah, he's dreaming of fake memories. I don't understand how that actually works, but like to make actual time travel, but for me, because it's so simple, they don't try to explain it, I can accept it. It's not a problem for
If you
me.
tell me it works, I guess.
Yeah. Because like if they tried to logically explain it in a post-apocalyptic world and there wasn't other like high-tech stuff, you know what I mean? Like I would be like, how did you even develop that without like the resources to? So this method for me actually does work really well. But as he goes back in time, what is pretty interesting to me, although I don't understand it uh, in a way, is that he's forming a relationship with this woman. Uh, Having appeared out of time, she notices his out of time and out of place necklace from the war, and he makes up some excuse for it.
Hmm.
They go on some other kinds of dates, and the most powerful scene of the movie, which is an actual scene, like when they're spending time together, she we have the brief moment of a motion picture where she like nods her head just a little bit and blinks at him, um, and then it just goes back to picture photography for the rest of the movie. I thought that was an amazing moment because I don't know. I guess in a way, it's like I know the whole movie's about memory and that kind of thing, but it's like some things you feel like I will never forget that. Like I will never forget the look they had on their face, or I will never forget um, when I went to perfume or something like that, which I did today. Um, so maybe that blink, that little moment of actual motion picture was like I will never forget that. I'm not sure. That's kind of how I took it. I don't know if
I,
you thought anything else beyond that.
I, well, two things really. The first is when I looked up reviews of this, like people were fixated on that particular scene, and I didn't really think it was anything special. I just thought, oh, interesting. It didn't really stand out to me, and that's possibly because I have a lot of problems with this movie. But she does say something in particular, like he goes and meets her at different time periods, and she
Hmm.
refers to him as her ghost. Um, and
Yeah.
I thought that was like particularly haunting and interesting, like to experience someone a time traveler. Like there other movies have sort of explored this. I think it's The Time Traveler's Wife or something like that.
Yeah.
Of a person that you see and fall in love with over many years because they're a time traveler. Um, it's it's very fascinating, but like it's sort of like giving you a lot of insight into this
Yeah.
relationship and how it's not a normal one, and
Yeah.
like something is forming there.
One other thing that that is also interesting about it is that like he's kind of got like sensory overload in a way when he first gets to like peacetime pre-war Paris. He can't believe the abundance of wealth essentially, like just seeing all the people talking on the street, all the things that are available to buy, all the plastic, all the steel, all the stuff. all the stuff that is everywhere. Um, yeah, he's quite taken aback by that. Then he meets the girl, and it is, yeah, it is her. His relationship with her is very interesting. It must be very strange. It's like she recognizes that he's different. Uh, yeah, because time travel. Um, I don't know if she knows that, but he seemed, I guess for her, he appears and disappears. Maybe not in front of her, but like out of her life for a while, back in her life, out of her life, back in her life. Cool part to me.
Hmm.
Um, but then the experimenters are going a little bit awry. They wake him up when he's having. I think they wake him up right after the motion part, or after some date, uh, and he sees Dr. Frankenstein essentially, and they send him into the far future instead of the past, and he talks to them, and he gets access to an energy source that will help them rebuild their time. I thought their visage, like their imagery, was pretty cool. I kind of am curious about the thing on their head.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know if you had any thoughts about this, like sudden transition to let's move to the future instead of the past.
I thought it was weird, and I think the movie would have worked better if they had focused on the past more,
Mm,
like, and maybe worked towards the ending that they were working towards. But I will say Interstellar kind of the Christopher Nolan movie kind of borrows heavily from this because they also receive, this is probably a spoiler, but they receive like an energy source from future humans there.
mhm.
And I thought that was interesting, like getting the tools because like they called it like something like fate, like
Yeah,
the solipsism of fate or something like that. I can't remember the exact
in
term.
Interstellar or this movie.
No, in this movie.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because there's like if humanity has made it and like they're going it makes sense to give it to them. This part was hard for me because I saw it with Spanish subtitles, but I knew it had something to do with like they give it to them because they're going to make it, and yeah, the solipsistic element of it. That was a little difficult for me to.
I thought it was really interesting that the narrator described this new Paris, Neo Paris, as
Yeah,
like a city with 10,000 streets.
yeah,
That's like a lot, and like it looked kind of like a computer from
yeah,
from the top down. Maybe that was intentional, but like it looked really interesting. Like that was a cool bit there.
yeah. I really liked how it was like the pictures were closing in on this silicone chip Paris, essentially.
Hmm.
Looked really cool. Uh, he comes back to the present and he's gotten the energy source, and the experimenters are happy. So it seems like, according to his feeling, seems like they're going to kill him. So that's a bit interesting. We can discuss that.
It never makes any sense. Like yeah, like I think you said at the beginning that you were watching it in a different language, so you were a bit confused. But I was confused. Like the like order of events here is that he arrives back in the present, gives them the thing, and they're like, "Well, you served your purpose," but they let him go back in time again for reasons that aren't quite clear. And he goes back to
Yeah.
the jetty, and he sees the woman, and they're like, "Yay, we're happy
Well,
together."
hang on, hang on. I agree with what you're saying, but you're being a little, oh, it's just so laissez-faire, whatever. It's
I'm
not
just
like that in
describing
the
what's happening
movie.
in this movie, my
That's
friend.
describing what you thought of it, not what actually happened. Let's be real here. I also don't understand. Like, I think I don't know if it was he. I can't remember if he contacted the people from the future or they contacted him to bring him back. But he wanted to. He said, "No, I want to go back to her," because he fell in love with her.
Hmm.
That's why he went back to the past, and that's why he was at the jetty. Now you may continue with the laissez-faire nonsense.
I'm not calling it. This is exactly this is exactly what the narration is describing here. Don't give me none of that, Lucas.
Oh, and then it's just he's doing. Oh, anyway.
Uh, so yeah, the man goes back to the jetty, sees the woman, and is able to spend some time with her. But in the background, in
Yeah, he
the
rushes to her. He's looking for her.
yeah, and he reunites with her, but unfortunately, um,
He thinks
he
about, wait a second, I this is where I as a young boy would have been at this place at this time, probably to watch the planes. And then
and then like one of the agents from the past, this underground city, is
yeah.
there, and he's like, you're dead now, and he shoots him, and
He does not say you're dead now and he shoots him. He kills him. He doesn't say anything to him. He just kills him.
yeah, it strikes me as weird because why would you let him go to the past to begin with? Like, and you just
Maybe
kill
he
him in
did
the
it to
underground city. He's
himself. I mean, it's not explained. It doesn't make, I agree. It doesn't make any sense, but I don't think they let him. He must have done it himself, or the people from the future somehow helped him. Again? Why would they help him again? I don't understand.
Yeah, it sounds like a like something that good narration might clean up. Who knows?
I think he did it himself somehow, but I don't know how he could have. Like, did he just fall asleep before they killed him and like put a little like a night blinder so he can sleep at night? And then I don't understand why he's back in the past other than he asked the people from the future to send him there instead of to the future. But how he made contact while in the present, unless he told them before he left that he wants to go back to the past, but then how does he go back to the nothing about it makes sense because it seems like his body is still there when he's in the past, even in the beginning of the movie. Now I have more questions
Yeah,
because they can wake him up and then he's in the present. So is he even going to the past? I don't think so.
that's why I was thinking like like he's hallucinating all of this in an effort
Yeah.
to like because his current life is like he longs for companionship and this is what he's getting and
Yeah.
he just sort of like falls into memory, but it's largely left up to interpretation.
Yeah, but it does seem like he did go to the past because the time loop that we've revealed that is revealed at the end is that in fact the boy that saw the boy in the beginning didn't see a random man be killed. He saw himself die, his future
Yes,
self die. I thought it was cool.
I kind of foresaw that happening. Like
Yeah,
I get because I've seen a lot of time travel stuff before. Uh,
yeah,
it just seemed like that's where it was going. So I feel like again I'm a victim of just having experienced media. I've experienced the stuff that was influenced by this movie, and so it doesn't come off as like fresh, even though at the time it might have been like very novel and uh, like different.
yeah. I'm a big fan of it. I just love the photography and the use of light and shadow. I think is in a lot of shots is really good,
Okay, so uh,
and the
story
concept.
somewhat interesting.
Yeah.
The photography. Let's talk about how this movie is filmed. And you're not going to like what I'm about to say. I do have to thank this movie for you don't notice something or you don't understand like how something is supposed to be until it's not that anymore. And
Mhm.
so movies are moving pictures. You know,
Hmm.
they're not still frames of shots left for us to kind of experience. And so I feel like one of the reasons I don't like this movie is because it's it's just like a bunch of still shots. Like you're like a lot of these photos are very beautifully framed, but anyone can frame a good photo like in a still moment right there. Like it takes a lot of skill to, you know, keep that
Have you
going.
tried photography?
No, but let me go on. Let me go on.
I'll let you
I
finish.
feel like photography and movie making are two different things, and so this doesn't feel like a movie experience for me. It feels like I'm just watching a catalog, or I'm like reading a catalog. It's like in video games when you have these visual novels. Like sure that it's a video game in a sense, but it's the same way that like a calzone is a sandwich. You're technically correct, but like it's not the same. It's not like I wouldn't go to a
What do
sandwich
you
shop
have
and say, "Give
against
me a
pizza
calzone."
sandwiches?
What?
I said, what do you have against pizza sandwiches?
It's so it's like I felt like this wasn't like it was. I wasn't able to enjoy the movie, to enjoy the beautiful imagery, because it didn't feel like a movie. And that's what New Wave does. Like it's supposed to challenge you, but I feel like here, and especially because of the narration, it would have worked better as a book or something a little bit
It
different.
would be a cool book, definitely, or a cool short story.
But that also brings me to the narration, which is another reason I don't really like this. The narration is vague and um like the narrator sounds extremely bored with, and because I had like I don't know if it was originally in French and maybe the French is more lively, but the narration I had was in English and
What? I've never heard the one in English on Vid Motion on Daily Motion, right?
no, I got mine on Amazon.
Oh yeah, you rented it. Uh I listened to it in French. I mean he's kind of got a monotone voice, but in French it sounds like he sounds kind of grave and serious. Uh Not quite bored. I mean it's a little bit monotone, but not like and then he went back to the past. Not like that kind of thing. It sounds a little like there's a little importance. Like this is like you need to learn from this. Um, maybe that's where I wonder if you listened to it in French and just had this like and had the subtitles, if that would have altered your viewpoint on the movie any other than like the photography aspect.
I'll have to give it another watch through on the version that I can find that's actually in French. Because
Um,
the narrator was speaking English and there were like a bunch of whispers that might have been German or Spanish or French, but those weren't translated, which I felt was weird. Um,
yeah, that wasn't translated either. I was very confused why. I don't know. Any other thoughts you had?
But yeah, the narrator was kind of describing things and it felt like it was vague, not really helpful. I found myself tuning out because again, like if you're just speaking at me the entire time, and you're not telling the story through the like what's happening in the story, like you're just showing me images of these two people in love and walking around, and that's great, but I'm not
Hell
really,
not show. Hell
yeah.
not show.
Exactly. That's the biggest problem I was thinking. Like you're telling me all of this. You're
Mm.
just lumping that information on me, and I don't like I that's not how I like absorb movies. That like I prefer to see what's going on the screen, and um you know narration can be helpful, but not if it's the entire movie. And so that's like a big problem with this movie. And I was just like tuning out, having to rewind because I wasn't really catching what was being said. I was like, wait, what did you just say? You said it in a monotone voice. My brain just like slipped away. And so like there's a lot of weird things that happen in this movie that like in any other movie you'd probably be like, whoa, that's really memorable. But again, maybe it's the tone of the narrator, maybe listening or going back to French might produce something else. That's that's something that
Sure.
yeah, that might change my interpretation of the movie.
I would say one thing, photography is a lot harder than you gave it credit for. Maybe framing a pic, maybe it's not hard to learn the basics of like how to frame a picture to make it look decent, make it look good. But lighting is another element to it, and I think the lighting for all the images was very good. And that, I wouldn't even say the framing of every picture in the movie was like that great, but the use of lighting in a lot of these images makes them really stand out. Like, I've got a couple that I took a picture of. Um, I feel like I don't even remember when this is, but this image of this guy, not a great framing necessarily, but I really want to know more about like why is he dressed like that? What is going on? What's his story? Like what is with these glasses? What is he looking at and why is he looking at it that way? Like to me, I think that told a whole lot. Also, we've got the weird guy. Uh what does this say? Prisoners were subjected to experiments. This is pretty early on to explain what's going on. I just
Mhm.
love that he's standing by all this hydraulic machinery or whatever. Like, I need to know, like, when was this built? How did they make their operations here and this kind of thing? And come on, this guy is iconic looking.
Oh yeah, like the Frankenstein dude. I
Yeah,
thought like it's a very they definitely know like what type of story they're trying to tell. They have
yeah.
the costumes down. Again, that's the thing where I think like a movie, like an actual like video of it, like of like a moving picture, like that could create this that could make it more iconic. I feel like you'd feel more involved in the world, and I don't get that from still images.
Again, I think one thing about photography, I'm not a huge fan of photography myself. I prefer paintings. But I think this photograph tells a lot as well. Like the way she's covering her mouth and like what is she looking at? Who is she looking at? Well, we find out, of course, but um, I think, yeah, just photography does so much to tell a story in its own way. Um, that uh, what am I trying to say? Like, a picture is worth 1,000 words, I suppose. Um, I guess motion picture would be worth more. This is maybe not a great framing, but I feel like I feel the emotion of that image and what's going on. Uh, the only hope for survival lay in time. Yeah, that's right. Um, I as I know we're about the same age, but as I get older and see more films, I guess for me, like I definitely didn't like French New Wave stuff when I was younger. Um, but now that I'm a little bit older, actually, I do prefer seeing people challenge how films should be made and
Hmm.
what a film is and how can you present information and still tell like an engaging story. And I think the story is engaging. If a bit like if you ask too many questions about the time travel stuff, it falls apart. But um, but I guess I mean that is a good question. Does he really time go back in time, or is he just hallucinating this? Like that is a valid question because they do say that people who do this either die or go mad. So maybe, possibly, he actually like when he went to the future, so to speak, when he was thinking of the future, that's when he started spiraling to his death, like in his mind, if that makes sense. Because otherwise, it doesn't really make sense that he would have, or he's gone insane. So maybe he never. saw his own death anyway.
I think depending on your depending on how you see it, like is this time travel or
Yeah.
not, it changes the interpretation of the film. As I said earlier, like either it's a story of
Hmm.
time travel and these people used him to gain power and close a loop,
Yeah.
or like if it's merely an experiment to see if you can better control people in this dystopia that now exists.
Yeah.
Um,
What if they're not even time trying to do time travel experiments? They're just testing like sensory deprivation and that medicine.
yeah, yeah. That's
They're prisoners.
also
Why
what I
would they
got
tell
from
them
it.
the truth?
What?
I said they're prisoners doing like they're doing experiments on prisoners. They know there's like a low success rate. Why tell them the truth? Tell them it's
Mhm.
something noble. Like you can help us save our time.
Yeah, it's a pretty sort of depressing kind of thought, but I mean, both of those are ways you can interpret the movie, and I think that's a very interesting way of filmmaking
Mhm.
here.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, anyway, my point being like I do think photography does work really well here because of its theme of memory. Pictures do tell a thousand words. The lighting in the photos does so much. The dress up, not the dress up, the costumes and stuff do tell a lot. Um, and I like to see movies that challenge what film can be now that I can appreciate film, and I've seen so many. That's my defense of it. Um, I mean, you have enjoyed other films that challenge what film can be. I mean, we both loved Pink Flamingos, for example.
Hmm.
And like that, that was an experience for sure. Um, well, I guess I'll just ask you, like, what is your interpretation of what actually happened? Is
I
it they are not actually experimenting to, like, they're just doing drug experiments? Did he go back to the past and lose his mind? Did he go back to the past and die? Or did he like go back to the past? He actually did see himself get killed. Like the other two options are he was trying to do the experiment, but he either went crazy, uh, or lost his mind, or he died during the experiment, or he actually went back and died, or another fifth mysterious option.
No, I guess I have to take the filmmakers at their word, and he did go back in time, and but he was being used by these people to achieve their vision of creating of a new world,
Mm,
and that's really sad because this man fell in love in the process, and it didn't work
yeah.
out well for him.
I think maybe they killed him. Like, there's no real evidence for it. Maybe some evidence would be like he made a connection with someone in the past, the woman, and somehow that would affect things. I don't know why, but like it doesn't really give anything that I picked up on anyway. Maybe that's a reason, or just like this doesn't make sense because the person that went back in the past, but like he's that's the only thing I can think of. He made a connection in the past, and maybe that will affect something.
Hmm.
I I'm debating between do I actually believe that he went back to the past or uh he died because I'm not sure why they would like send themselves when they're doing it on like why would these experimenters send one of their own when it's
Hmm.
so dangerous? So I'm thinking he was doing this, but he died. Like he died, and maybe because the prisoners like they're probably not treated well in a radioactive Paris in the first place.
Hmm.
And these are they're like victims of the abuse of these people through the experiments and through their imprisonment, probably. So I don't think maybe the experiment was real, but like once he went to the future, he went crazy. Maybe he went crazy and then died. That's my interpretation of it myself, because it doesn't make sense to send. someone so important when you know it's incredibly dangerous and people either die or lose their mind. It's my thought.
Yeah, it's an interesting way to think about the movie. Um, I've seen that this has ended up on a bunch of there's one list like 1,000 movies you need to see before you die. And I do think that this is an interesting and different enough movie that you should see it at least once.
And
Now,
it's short.
yeah, like 30 minutes of your life that
Mm,
is not much. Um,
thought
but
provoking.
yeah, it's thought provoking. Now, do I think it's necessarily a great movie? Yeah, I think there's a difference between interesting and great, in my opinion. Lucas over here, absolutely loves it and whatnot. I think it's interesting. I think it's a great experiment. I don't think it's like on the quality of like other movies that we have watched for this movie session thing that we should give a name to eventually.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like I don't know, maybe that makes me a heathen. But like I'm very set on this like not being as grand as maybe some people think. But I should note that I probably said the same thing about Andrei Rublev. And if
Yes,
anything,
you did.
this movie makes me like Andrei Rublev a lot more. Because
At least it had motion picture and a very clear narrative.
yeah, the bar is very low there now. But no, like uh, I think this will probably end up like bottom tier, but again, time to think, maybe seeing the actual French version, that'll probably change my mind a little bit.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, that's like those are really my thoughts there, and
Yeah. I have two
uh,
questions.
yeah,
Both should be quick, unless you have something else that you want to get off your chest.
no.
Number one, do you think you could understand the film if, like, you couldn't hear it? Or how far into the film do you think you would get lost?
That is a tough question, but a very good one. Um,
Because, like, I think it's a brilliant film. It maybe nowadays it kind of feels like a student project for film school. If
mhm.
that makes sense. A very creative one. I don't think it is. I think it's higher quality than that, but like I think maybe it'd be a bit confusing. No, because they have the text that can explain that. How far do you think you could get, or do you think the whole story would make sense to you without sound?
I want to say I would have the same experience that I'm having now, and that I think it'd be left to interpretation whether or not he went back in time.
Hmm.
I'd be like, did he go? Like, what happened to him with this whole experiment that was going on that we can see, like what's going on there? But interestingly, I do think I might be able to understand and form an interpretation of it.
I think so too. It might be a little confusing when the people from the future show up because you need the narrator to tell you what that is. But other than that, like you might feel like this is an aberration. I don't get it, but they look kind of cool. And then the rest of it you could make sense of, I think. Um, I think you could understand it without the sound. It wouldn't be as good without the music. The chorus is incredible.
Hmm.
It makes it feel so like yeah, holy and yeah, just eventful, so to speak. Um, I think the French narration is decent, so when you have the time, I would give it a shot. If you still feel like, oh, that he sounds bored, then you can just drop it from there. That's okay. Um, my last question, the last question of every video,
Hmm.
is which character did you relate to the most?
Um,
I don't think anybody has names except Frankenstein.
I guess I would say the main character. Again, I
Yeah,
can't relate to really any of them because they're also like abstract, I would say.
yeah.
But the main character, because that's the only one you can really latch onto, because they have like emotions. The Frankenstein guy is like he's too moralist. Like he's using this dude to gain access to a better future,
Yeah.
and I can't really relate to that. So I guess like the just the main character. What about you?
Yeah. I don't relate to the correctional officers because ACAB, but I guess I would have to say the narrator because I too would like to be God. No, the main character, obviously. Uh, he's the one you can latch on to, and you know, you're seeing his memories. Like there are certain memories that when I think of them, like I see pictures myself. I don't know how do you see your memories? Do you
It's
see memories?
it's motion. Like it's I can see like events happening unfolding in my mind's eye as they
Hmm.
say. So when you said you can only see images, I couldn't relate to that.
I literally just see like I don't even really see images that well. Like I don't know how to describe it. Like like it went if I think really hard, I can see an image. And maybe I can see like the next one if I'm thinking of a conversation from a long time ago, I'll think of what my friend or my mom or whoever was saying and how they looked. And if I think really hard, I can see the image. But otherwise, it's like some kind of sensory input in my mind that feels like an image. But I definitely don't see motion. Also, everything is black and white and silent.
Really, because I went to Toronto
Yeah,
over the week or like last week, and like in my head I can hear the sound still. I can it's in color. Like I can recall the color of Toronto.
right.
And uh, so like I don't know, everyone's mind works a bit differently. So I don't know, it just seems different, seems odd.
It's hard to say. But that's who I relate to most. My memories come in strange ways. Maybe if I thought really hard, I could imagine in color, but I definitely can't hear things if I'm having a memory. I don't know what that is about, but I don't have an internal voice. So that might be the reason why. Uh,
Well, I also have that.
yeah. Um, so then your
Yes.
pick.
So for the month of July, which is also my birth month, so very good opportunity here. I figured we would go back to some Indian cinema
Hell
in a
yeah.
movie that you might not like. You might like it. I think it's a musical or it's a movie about music. Um, and let me just say it is a movie from 2011. Um, Directed by Imtiaz Ali, and it is called Rockstar. I don't know if you've ever heard of it,
Nope.
but I've never seen it. But there's a song from the movie that has that I listened to in my undergrad, possibly around the time that it came out, and it's sort of been kind of stuck with me since. It's called Sada Hawk, and I'm hoping that you enjoy it because I love that song, and I'm finally getting a chance to force you to watch it. So we'll see where that goes.
Looking forward to it.
But yeah, good movie talk today. I'm finally glad that we were able to sort of find a movie that we were diametrically opposed to. You could say that like Andrei Rublev was like that, but I ended up enjoying it, and
Yeah.
I understood it. Whereas this one, I wouldn't say I wouldn't say that I cared for it as much as you. But yeah, if anyone out there has any thoughts about La Jetée, or if you just want to critique our critique here, let us know in the comments below. We would love to hear from you. Otherwise, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe not only to my channel, but also Lucas's at Strike the Sun MD, as he has interesting things to say from time to time about books and movies and video games too. So go do that, and then hopefully other people can find out about this as well. Like, share, and subscribe, as we say. And until then, we wish you the best of luck in your weird and time travel or weird science experiment travels. Farewell.
Farewell.